Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Nikitinaknits. My name is Evgeniya and in this video I'm speaking about my autumn knitting plans. I'm so excited and I'm so inspired, but this year I don't feel so much overwhelm or overload in my brain, you could say, just because I used my structure to plan my knitting, and I shared this structure with my knitting community on my channel. So my previous video mentions all of the tips to plan your knits. If you also feel quite overwhelmed or you don't really know what to choose, or it's just a lot in your mind and you want some tips on planning your knits, you can watch my video and use those tips. But right now, grab your knitting and grab your favorite drink. In my case, is some hot cacao, and let's go through my knitting plans together. I'm going to begin with something I actually should be finishing, and just because it's a middle project, I'm including in my knitting plans because it's still a lot of work, which is an Oreum Sweater by Shawl. It's an all-over beautiful cabled design. It's a top-down raglan, very simple. I mean, it's not simple because it's all over cables, but it's just top-down raglan with some shaping at the back to raise the back in relation to the neck. And overall, the instructions are so clear, the pattern is so well written. I don't know if it's completely beginner friendly, but it's very nice because it's my first cabled all over cabled project, and I do feel quite confident knitting on that. I didn't have to unravel anything, I didn't have any issues. By the way, Soul is a Korean designer, and as you may know, I really love Korean designs and I want to knit so many beautiful sweaters from them. I spoke about this project in my previous podcast. Is podcast number 8, is one of my recent videos, and there's actually a very cool hoodie that I finished recently and some other knits that I'm working on. Check it out if you want. So I'm going to keep on knitting with that. The yarn that I'm knitting it with is Easier Jensen in the color 2S, and some cashmere, brush cashmere on silk, which is Carrier Descents in also gray color. I don't know exact name. I'll be putting everything on the screen. So I hope to finish it soon. I don't know if I can finish it in September, but it's getting cold here in the north of Spain and I'm really looking forward to be wearing it. The only concern that I have is that cashmere on silk, this lace thread has some elastic in it, elastan 10% I think, and that may kind of shrink a little bit of the garment, and I don't want this to happen. So it's still a surprise how it's going to end up for me, but I'm looking forward for some best luck. Next time I would never use yarn with elastan for cabled project. I don't think it's a smart idea. All right, my next one is so emotional, so forgive my super happy emotions, because the yarn that I'm holding in my hands right now, look at this beauty, very, very beautiful green, dusty emerald green color. This is 70% alpaca and 30% silk. Is the fingering weight and 202 meters per 50 grams. And this yarn is extremely special. So I just came back from the trip with my friends, 2 beautiful women, 2 knitters. We went together to the province that is next to my province in the north of Spain, and we went to alpaca farm. And I bought this yarn at that farm, and I dream to release knitting vlog like the next video about it, but I hope I will be brave to do that because my channel is not about knitting vlogs. I usually have these sit-down videos, and a lot of times I have very interesting knitting trip, but then I doubt if my people will be wanting to watch that video. So I don't really know for sure if I'm going to release that vlog, but if not, I will share about that beautiful farm trip in my next knitting podcast. Anyways, this is beautiful. This is handmade. This is from the farm in the village that we went, 3 of us. We walked with those alpacas, we touched them, we kissed them, we hugged them, and I'm holding this in my hands, and this yarn reminds me of that trip. I'm thinking to hold this fingering weight alpaca and silk with the leftover of a mohair bliss. I believe it's 808 color, and I'm going to hold it together with this yarn. So if you look at it, mohair has completely different shade, like it has a lot of blue in it, and obviously emerald green is quite green. So, by the way, it's a leftover from this beautiful cognac sweater, and I spoke about this sweater in my podcast number 7 if you want to know about this beautiful sweater. So this mohair is extremely soft, is like kitten towards my skin, is the softest mohair I've ever worked with yet, and I don't know how it's going to end up. I hope to see a very interesting effect because this mohair is quite thin, it's 300 meters per 25 grams. So I hope it doesn't really overcome this beautiful green color and maybe just add a tiny bit of blue. So, by the way, it's not blue. Maybe in the camera it appears blue, but it's like sea foam color. Very, very beautiful color. Oh my god, I love this color so much, and I have more yarn in these colors, like all of these green sea shades just drive me crazy, I swear. Anyways, what I'm going to be knitting with this is Liv Blouse by Moreca Knit, and Liv Blouse has a gauge of 20 or 21 stitch per 10 centimeters, and I guess it's going to be perfect. One strand of this and one strand of this together. I'm not going to do the opening of the Liv Blouse, I don't like that style, so it's going to be normal length, hitting my hip bones, and I'm going to be happy with this. Otherwise, I'm going to repeat everything on the Liv Blouse. Maybe I will not do the ribbing on the sleeves and on the body. I will do the I-cord just like in this beautiful sweater. So I don't know why I keep knitting blouses, like fancy blouses that I cannot wear in harsh conditions, but this is my passion, and I love knitting with mohairs or with very soft baby alpaca. By the way, if you want similar combination and you got inspired, you can use alpaca silk from Sadness Garn. I think there's 50% of silk and 50% of baby alpaca. Don't know exactly, you can check it out. But I touched this yarn in the yarn shop and it was extremely soft, just like this one. And it has more color ranges and is always available, so it's way easier to knit with that yarn. And obviously Pasquale mohair you can always buy in the market. It has beautiful colors. And if you're interested if Pasquale mohair worth the money, I think 100% yes. First of all, because it has more meterage per 25 grams, you need less balls, and it's extremely, extremely soft. So Liv Blouse is a very beautiful boat neck blouse. It's originally designed for summer yarn and it was released in summer season, but I don't care because it can be knitted in winter yarn or in summer yarn. I love that construction. I love a slightly dropped shoulder. Maybe it's similar to this one, but it's going to be dropped a bit more over here. Very beautiful, relaxed boat neck, very wearable, and I guess I can wear it on special events and on everyday basis, which is always something I'm looking for when I'm creating my garments. The next one, I want your help. Look at this beauty. Link Cashmere Dreams in this very, very gorgeous color. The color is 0091 and it is way warmer than my cognac sweater, but it is actually quite similar in the shade to alpaca that I just shown to you. Obviously, this one is way lighter and way more unsaturated, but just look at the color, they're very similar. This is a gift from Inna. We went on this alpaca farm trip together and also with another knitter, with Nastya, also our friend, and she gifted me this beautiful brushed cashmere on silk. So this is a lace weight, 290 meters per 25 grams, 65% cashmere and 35% silk, and this texture is very uneven, very beautiful, just like brushed hairs on top of this silk thread. It was my dream to try this yarn and she just gifted it to me and she guessed the colors so well. This is my passion right now. So I want to knit a scarf with this, but I can't find a beautiful design. So I have a lot of meterage, so basically 600 meters almost. And I want a mid-size scarf, something textured, maybe a little bit of cables, but not too busy. So my problem is that all of these scarves are quite busy and I'm looking for a minimalistic design with some interesting elements. So maybe a tiny bit of cables with some ribbing or just some texture. Honestly, whatever I was looking on Ravelry, I didn't really like. So maybe you know some interesting mid-size scarf patterns. So mid-size meaning I can just wrap around my neck and two angles are going to be hanging over here on my chest. So the neck is closed and warm, but it's not like too huge. So it's just finishing below my chest. If you know the pattern that you love and you would love to knit or you think I might love, please share in the comments. I would love to read and maybe I get some inspiration. If I don't have enough yarn, I can always buy one more ball, but I think two strands with this beautiful yarn would be so perfect. Anyways, enough of the luxury yarns. Let's go with something a bit more humble. This is Italian yarn and cone, and I bought it in Ukraine a long time ago when I just started knitting, and it's in my stash for like 3 years. This is a Rico design, Italian yarn and cone, and also some Italian yarn and cone. I will be putting all of the names in the screen because I don't remember the name of this yarn, and the contents also. A very beautiful fluffy thread with this interesting like dusty chocolate color. It's barely chocolate color. I can't really describe it. So basically this is a very fluffy thread that has some elastan in it that is going to be bouncing and holding the fabric. I'm looking forward to something marled and like melange effect. I think it's going to be beautiful. So what I'm thinking to make with this is a wrap cardigan. I'm going to make a ballerina wrap, and I took a lot of time to actually choose the project. So what I need is, when it's cold, when it's winter season, autumn and spring, when I wake up, I do morning workouts. And I was really struggling in the mornings, specifically in these apartments, because whenever I wake up, it's cold. And in this apartment, it was even colder because the heating is not working well and some other problems. So I want something warm to kind of start my workout. I don't want to be struggling with cold. And what I was doing is I was just wearing my mountain zipper fleece and then just like home huge sweater on top. And it was so ugly and so uncomfortable every morning. Uncomfortable because still the cold was getting inside of that huge sweater. Luckily, I don't have it anymore. And I need something like that for my workouts because it's a big part of my life. And I was struggling the whole season. Am I excited to need that cardigan? Not really, to be honest, because it's back and forth. It is a lot of details, and I need already cardigans like that, you know, simple cardigans. I'm not that excited, but I really want this in my wardrobe. This yarn is very similar to Knitting for Olive Merino. It has 10% of cashmere in it, and it's going to bloom with washing because it has some spinning oil. And I will have to knit with like 3 strands together because ballerina wrap is a DK weight pattern. So 3 or 4 strands of this one and 1 strand of this beautiful fluffy thread. And I'm really looking forward to it because it was really cheap. If you don't knit with Italian yarn and cone, I do suggest that you start trying. It's complicated because it's quite unpredictable and it's area that is quite unknown to us. But once you start and you find your favorite yarns and you want to save some money and get some new interesting experience, I think it's quite nice. So if you want something similar to the texture of this yarn, you can use Knitting for Olive because it's extremely similar. Just way cheaper. But I love Knitting for Olive and I have it in my stash as well. Forgive me my emotions, but I'm so excited. This is so soft. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's speak about it. This is a very beautiful yarn that I've dreamed to knit with since I started knitting, I swear. But it's quite expensive, so I didn't have a courage to invest in it until I had enough skills to knit something I'm going to be wearing for years. So I felt that finally I can actually knit something I'm going to be knitting for years. I'm going to be wearing for years. And this is Angora from Fonty. Fonty is a French brand. It's 20% wool and 80% Angora. And Angora is quite a sensitive topic for a lot of knitters because a lot of times it's a cruel source of yarn. But this brand, I don't know if they raise their rabbits or they buy it from a controlled source. But the point is that the rabbits are grown in France and everything is under strict control. So it's 100% cruelty-free Angora, which is quite hard to find in the market. And I'm personally ready to overpay for a guarantee that I'm not knitting with cruel yarn. So definition of cruel, of course, is different for every person, but in my definition is perfect. So this source makes me happy and I am feeling completely fine knitting with this beautiful Angora yarn. Angora rabbits are so cute. I don't know, I have no words when I look at them. I think it's a light DK yarn and that has 25 stitches per 10 centimeters, which is a promised gauge, but obviously depends on the needle you pick up. And the recommended needles are 4 to 4.5. And it's in the color, like it's one gray color in their palette. You can clearly see it if you check. 211, the number on the color. So I'm thinking to knit with this April cardigan by Petite knit that has a gauge of 21 stitch per 10 centimeters. And I bought exact amount for the smallest size. I still don't know if I'm going to be doing a ripped bottom band or double knit bottom band, A lot of people did that option and it looks gorgeous. So I'm looking forward to it. It's extremely soft. It sheds not that much, but any Angora yarn is going to shed, especially after the first block. But once Angora fluff is coming out, you're going to be left with pretty stable garment. Depends on the yarn, of course. If it's a good brand, you have a better experience, hopefully. So I think it's going to be so cute, very fluffy, extremely lightweight. I only bought 8 balls, which is 25 grams each, which is how much? 200 grams. And is extremely hot. Angora is known to be isolating to the body, so if you're warm, you're going to stay warm. It's not quite breathable like some other fibers like merino or alpaca. Anyways, so happy, so looking forward to knit with this beautiful yarn. All right, the last sweater and the last garment in my collection. So I'm going to be knitting Crumble Sweater by Suuko Knit. Suuko Knit is a Korean designer, and I spoke about this design in detail in my roundup, Korean knitting pattern roundup. If you want to get inspired, to get a lot of details about this sweater and overall get more patterns in your mind, check that video out. The link is going to be in the description box. And overall, I have a whole playlist on Korean and Japanese knitting pattern inspiration. The link is going to be also in the description box. So I'm going to be knitting that beautiful sweater in I'm Wool 4 by Nakyang Yarn. I'm having this yarn in my stash for quite a long time and I can't wait to knit with this. It is 100% merino wool. It's something between a smooth merino that is quite shiny, let's say like double Sunday, and something a bit more matte. I don't know how to describe this texture specifically. I don't know if you can see this very interesting fluff that already comes out on top of the yarn. And I guess after the block, you will see even more fluff coming out. But I don't know, I think it's really nice. Very, very soft. I'm super sensitive person. So this is a Korean yarn, but they have a representative in Europe. They're based in Germany, so you can buy their yarn easily online. And this is a color Dusted Lavender. So each ball has 100 grams and it has 175 meters, which is a worsted weight yarn. And a Crumble Sweater is calling for a worsted weight yarn. And I already swatched for that sweater in the moss stitch, double moss stitch, and it was nice. I could reach the gauge, and I will be needing a bit tighter just in case because it's a merino wool, and after the wash, of course, it's going to be growing even more. Oh my god, I'm looking at it and I already imagine that beautiful sweater on me. I have quite a lot of balls, like 700 grams of this. Crumble Sweater is a seamless construction that is knitted tom down. You start at the back panel, you need the trapezoid shape back and forth. After that, you pick up on the right shoulder, knitting the increases for the neck, doing the same for the left side, doing the front panel to the armholes, connecting in the round and knitting down. And then you pick up stitches for the sleeves. I guess there should be some short rows at the sleeves to shape the sleeve cap, not sure yet. And you knit in the sleeves. If there are no short rows, I will have to implement them because I desperately need them in every drop shoulder construction. I do not accept any more drop shoulder construction without short rows at the sleeve. All right, let's move on with the accessory part, and I need to knit myself fingerless gloves. And I would love to make it with baby yak, 100% baby yak from Tibetan fibers, miyak fibers. And this is, as I already said, 100% baby yak of worsted weight. I personally think it's a heavy DK weight and not worsted, but depends on the needle size you're using. It's a very lightweight, super soft, of course, it's super soft as baby yak, super soft towards the skin, extremely warm. Yak is very warm fiber that lives high up in Tibetan mountains. And I want to make these gloves. I have no pattern. I will probably just knit them myself because it will be plain stockinette, and I only have 50 grams. By the way, it's the colorway Desert, which is undyed colorway. And I guess undyed colorways are quite softer or fluffier than dyed colorways, but cannot confirm because I didn't see painted colors. And I will be knitting these mittens just because this is a leftover from my Terrazzo neck by Petite knit. So I'm about to finish this beautiful whip. I will be showing this finished object in my knitting podcast that is going to come out soon. And as you may guess, it's knitted with the same exact yarn. Look at this beautiful texture. This yarn does show out rowing out, so since you're knitting back and forth, you want to make sure that you're keeping your gauge the same when you purl and when you knit. And I already blocked the swatch for this terrazzo neck, and it blooms really beautiful after the wash. So I'm really looking forward to this gorgeous set. All right, now 2 socks and then a hat and a shawl, and I'm done with my plans. So these socks were shown in my previous podcast. I'm doing a tutorial for these socks, and the yarn is German yarn, which is a Schoppel wool Zabberball Crazy. I forgot the name of this beautiful colorway. I will be putting it on the screen. But look at this beautiful yarn. It is a 2-ply yarn that is very fluffy and very beautiful after block. You can see this structure. This is already after blocking. And I guess with each wear and with each wash, the fluff is going to come out even more nice. So I designed this sock myself because every heel construction was breaking a beautiful gradient. And I'm a fan of a strong heel construction, and I also wanted a slip stitch to strengthen my heel and slip stitch to strengthen my toe. And also I wanted very tight gauge on 2mm needles. Also you have no ribbing and you have folded over cuff. By the way, the contents of the yarn is a traditional contents. It's a superwash wool and 25% polyamide. It doesn't feel like superwash, to be honest, like it's not a smooth texture, but it feels super soft. And I have to say I'm becoming a fan of this yarn because I just came back from Switzerland from the hiking trip, and I went obviously to the yarn shop in Switzerland, to many of them, and in one of them I bought this very beautiful colorway of the same yarn, Schoppel Zabberball Crazy. The colorway is, let me check the color. It is 930182, the color. And when I saw this color, long time ago actually, it's not the first time that I'm impressed by this color. When I saw it, I thought of autumn. I don't know, it's just a very beautiful combination with fallen leaves, with these orangey, reddish and yellowish leaves. I think it's going to be beautiful, and I would like to just repeat what I did in this sock, and it's going to be my autumn socks. It's not a necessary need. Obviously I have socks in my wardrobe and I have exactly the same socks, but I just love the colors so much. Look at this beautiful red and beige changes and blues, and they're combined so well together. When I'm looking at the color palette of this brand, of this yarn, I want everything, every single color. I think I would need socks with that. And I would like actually mittens with this yarn and everything with this yarn. And also next ones are Brady ripped socks, which is a pattern by me. And I'm going to also release a tutorial on my channel very soon. This is the version that is not going to be in tutorial, just because I found the yarn color so dark and I failed with actual filming of tutorial. I didn't like the technical side of it. So I decided to knit the same exact pair with the same exact yarn, but with a different color. And these socks are going to be not for me, but for my dear friend. She has a special event in November, and I want to give these socks to her. So this is Rosarios for Maya, a Spanish yarn, or Portuguese, I already forgot where it comes from. And this is a color 23. It is a very beautiful dusty rose shade that is perfect. I would like to have a sweater with this color, so beautiful. So let me show you the actual socks. They're very simple Brady socks, and when you wear them, they actually stretch and bounce back because of this beautiful rip. The rip is very thick and quite irregular, so it's very interesting to knit. Not boring, knits up so quick. Knits up on 2mm needles, but just because the yarn is a sport weight yarn, is going to be knitting very quick. And what I like about it, that you only have cables, 4 cables before the heel, and then you only have 2 cables going on, and then it goes faster. So very simple, nothing much to say. Strong heel construction, my favorite one. I just got inspired by combining rib and cables together and to create it my own socks, and I want to share them with the knitting community, so it's coming out very soon. So now only 2 items left. The last one is the most special one, so I left it for the last. And now let's talk about the shawl. I want to knit a shawl, very thick, very cozy shawl that is going to warm me up in winter and in autumn. So this is Twin by Lana Grossa, and I'm not sure, but I think this yarn could be discontinued already. To be honest, I don't know how this yarn is going to behave and what to expect from it, but I bought it a long time ago on discount when I was still falling for summer sales, and now I need to use it. I'm thinking to knit a huge wrap, like a triangle shawl, that it's going to be quite big, that I'm going to cover my shoulders with and maybe even fix with the belt of my coat. I have no pattern. I didn't even look in the pattern much, but since it's going to be only stockinette and I will need to play with the gauge, I'm thinking to just knit it myself. So what I want from this shawl is to be 2 triangles connected together. So I hope you got it. Like this shape, very huge, that is seamed up in the middle. The reason to that is if I just start knitting it back and forth in this format, you know, increasing and then decreasing, I will have stripes laying up vertically. As you can see, the yarn is quite striped. But I don't want that. I want the stripes to be horizontally. So, and since obviously it's impossible to just cast on from the bottom of the shawl and then increase to the whole width, it's impossible because I don't have that much length of the cable. I'm thinking to just knit 2 triangles back and forth like that and seam them up together. And I have enough actually for another garment or another scarf. Maybe I can give someone later. Anyways, that's the shawl. And the companion to that shawl is very special. So, oh my gosh. I'm sorry, but this episode is very heavy on luxurious yarns. Anyways, this yarn again was my dream yarn to try, and it is Lank Cashmere Light color. So again, in the same yarn shop where I bought this beautiful Shawl Zobberball Crazy, I bought this cashmere, and the reason why I bought it is because it's quite hard to find in online shops. It's very expensive. It's 30 euros per 25 grams, and you get only 85 meters. So it's quite expensive, and I guess that's why a lot of online shops don't store it in their collection. And I was thinking if I want to buy it, and I do want to buy it, I will have to pay for the shipping and so on. So I decided to go for it. And I couldn't find anything from single color that I would like. And I went with this one. So I don't know how it's going to be, but I think it's going to be a really beautiful hat. And the tactile sensations are crazy. When I hold it in my hands, I cannot believe it. Well, first of all, let me say, if I'm going to pull the thread, it's going to bounce back, which is quite nice in my opinion, because as you can see, it has quite a significant fluff. So it's not a spun yarn, it's just fluff attached to the thread. And it's not quite durable. And to hold some sort of shape, especially if it's a hat, you need some sort of elasticity. And that was really smart that they added elastan in this yarn. So I'm really looking forward to knit a hat with this, and I hope it's enough for a hat with a folded brim. And it's going to match perfectly this shawl. As you can see, they're quite similar color. Not the same pattern, but the same color. And it's going to be gorgeous on my forehead, extremely warm. Cashmere is a super warm fiber, way warmer than merino or any other wool. So in the winter times, I'm going to be so warm with this hat. And if you want to treat yourself and you're looking for some special yarns, I can recommend it. For real, you're not going to regret it. Yes, it is heavily expensive, but when you hold it, you know that you bought something extremely special. Oh my god, I forgot to mention the mittens that I have to make. I need to make myself mittens to pair my brioche hat, and I'm going to be making Chantal Mittens from Moreca knit. So this is the yarn that I'm going to be using. This is Cheapest Metropolis, that is 25% polyamide and 75% extra fine merino. Actually, it's nylon, not polyamide. And I'm going to pair it with Carriage Sense, which is a lace weight cashmere on silk. The same lace weight that I mentioned in the first project in my Oreum sweater. This is the huge cone that I have. So with the same exact yarn, I knitted myself brioche hat. And if you want to hear about it, you can watch my Everything I Knit in 2024 video. So it's very, very beautiful yarn, and I'm becoming a fan of it. It is super soft. It is very rounded. I would also say it's middle priced, not that expensive, but not that cheap. And actually it's designed for socks, but I don't want to knit it for socks because it's too soft and I don't find it that durable for socks. And a lot of people actually need color work and sweaters for this and hats. Very, very soft, completely not scratchy, super nice experience. And of course, combined with this beautiful cashmere is going to create a beautiful set. So I'm really looking forward to these Chantal mittens, and I'm going to need them very long and completely covered, so full mittens. Not so excited about this project because it's just practical wardrobe, and it's a slip stitch in a very small circumference, and I'm overall not a fan of knitting accessories, to be honest, except socks. I like to be knitting socks, but I do want them in my wardrobe, and I'm really looking forward to enjoy this warmth in the winter time. And this yarn is actually wearing out quite nice because I have the hat in it, as I already said, and it wears out really nice. I washed it twice. I've worn this everywhere, in hiking trips, anywhere, and no peeling, no losing shape, nothing. Really nice. And I have the entire quantity for another sweater in a different color. So probably becoming one of my favorite yarns. Anyways, that was it for my autumn knitting plans. Quite a lot of projects, and I tried my best to structure them well and to think of everything. And again, the way I did that and all of the tips to do so, you can find in my previous video. Check it out. At this point, I would like to know 2 projects in your mind that you're so excited to knit, because I like to get inspired and I like to know about new patterns, and I think other knitters would also be interested to go through the comments and to find some inspiration. So share some of your excitements, and I will actually feel like I'm speaking to people and not to the camera. Thank you very much for being here, for subscribing to my channel, and for staying with me through this YouTube journey. It means a lot to me, and it inspires me so well to keep on knitting exciting projects. So thank you again very much for watching. Enjoy your knitting, and I'm hoping to see you soon in my next video.